The radiator hissed in the darkness like a dying animal. Water stains spread across the ceiling of the Dorchester apartment in patterns that looked like continents El Hayes had never seen and never would. 6:30 in the morning. The city outside still wrapped in that peculiar Boston winter darkness that made you forget the sun had ever existed. Elle opened her eyes to the familiar sight of peeling paint and the smell of mildew mixed with the harsh chemical scent of her mother's medications. 17 pill bottles lined the windowsill. She had them memorized. Blood pressure, dialysis support, pain management, anti-rejection drugs for kidneys that were rejecting everything. She sat up. The apartment was so cold, her breath came out in small clouds. The heating bill had been $200 last month. She had paid half. The rest went on a credit card that was already screaming at her in red letters. Her mother slept on the pull-out couch in the living room. Elle had given Grace the bedroom 2 months ago when climbing stairs became too difficult. Grace Hayes looked smaller every day. Her skin had that translucent quality Elle recognized from her nursing school rotations at Massachusetts General, the quality that meant the body was slowly giving up its fight. Elle stood slowly, her back ached. She had worked a double shift at the Sapphire Room yesterday. 17 hours on her feet carrying plates that cost more than her monthly rent to people who never looked at her face. She moved to the kitchen. 3 steps. Everything in the apartment could be reached in 3 steps from anywhere else. She filled the kettle, set out her mother's morning medications in the small plastic organizer she had bought at CVS, 9 a.m. pills, 2 p.m. pills, 6 p.m. pills. The rhythm of survival measured in capsules and tablets. On the kitchen table sat an eviction notice. Third and final warning. She had hidden it under a coffee can so her mother would not see. $800 due by the end of the week. Elle had $147 in her checking account. Her savings account had been empty for 6 months. The math was brutal. The math did not lie. She made instant coffee because real coffee was a luxury from another lifetime. Added powdered creamer that tasted like chalk. Drank it standing up while looking out the window at the street below. Dorchester at dawn, broken sidewalks and chain-link fences and buildings that looked tired of standing. A black Escalade was parked across the street. Tinted windows, engine running but no one getting out. Cars like that did not park in this neighborhood. Elle watched it for a moment, then shook her head. Paranoia, stress, she was seeing things that were not there. She left a note for her mother on the refrigerator. Mom, medications at 9, 2, and 6. Angela the nurse comes at 11. I love you, E. On the windowsill next to the pill bottles sat her father's chess set, carved wooden pieces, half of them chipped or broken. Patrick Hayes had taught her to play when she was 7, every Sunday after Mass. He had been a janitor at MWT for 30 years. Read every philosophy book in the library where he mopped floors. Never accept the first offer, he had told her. Always know your value. And remember, Elle, the person sweeping the floor sees the dirt everyone else steps over. She picked up the white queen, her father's favorite piece, felt the weight of it, put it back carefully. Then she grabbed her coat and left for work. The MBTA bus was packed with other people who started work before the sun rose. Elle stood pressed between a construction worker who smelled like cigarettes and an elderly woman clutching a rosary. The bus lurched through Dorchester, through Roxbury, into the back bay where the buildings grew taller and cleaner and the people on the sidewalks wore coats that cost a month of Elle's rent. She got off at Arlington Street, walked 3 blocks to the Sapphire Room. The restaurant sat on the ground floor of a building that looked like it had been transported from Renaissance Italy. Marble columns, gold trim, windows made of bulletproof glass, though most people did not know that detail. The Sapphire Room catered to a very specific clientele, the kind of people who needed bulletproof glass but would never admit to needing it. Elle went through the service entrance in the alley, down concrete stairs, through a steel door into the staff area that smelled like bleach and grease and desperation. Gerald Price stood in the break room. The manager was a thin man with a comb-over he must have believed looked convincing, and cologne that tried desperately to smell expensive but only succeeded in smelling desperate. He was reading from a clipboard. His voice was nasal, sharp. Listen up, people. Rules, you know them, but I will repeat them because some of you seem to forget. Do not speak to guests unless spoken to first. Do not make eye contact unless absolutely necessary. You are furniture that moves. You are part of the ambiance, nothing more. He looked directly at Elle. Hayes, you are on section 3 tonight, tables 10 through 15. These are important guests, very important. The Romano family, the Moretti family. Do not engage. Crystal water pitcher. Sparkling water only. Do not improvise. Do not deviate. And for God's sake, do not draw attention to yourself. Elle nodded, her face blank. She had learned in nursing school how to keep her face blank when people spoke to her like she was not human. The evening shift started at 7. The sapphire room transformed after sunset. Candlelight replaced the harsh overhead fixtures. Classical music played low enough to feel sophisticated, but not loud enough to interfere with conversation. Vivaldi, always Vivaldi. Elle changed into her uniform. Black vest, white shirt, black pants. The fabric was cheap, it showed sweat, it wrinkled if you breathed wrong, but it was designed to blend into the background, to be invisible. She took her position in Section 3. The dining room filled slowly. Politicians whose faces Elle recognized from television. CEOs whose companies her father had probably cleaned the offices of. Women in gowns that cost more than dialysis treatments. Men in suits that whispered Italian tailoring. And at table 12, the table everyone in the staff area had been whispering about all day, sat the Moretti family. The matriarch arrived first. Isabella Moretti moved through the restaurant like she owned not just the table but the ground beneath it. Silver hair pulled into an elegant bun, a Chanel suit in midnight blue, pearls that looked heavy enough to choke someone. Her eyes swept the room with the practiced ease of someone who had been evaluating threats and opportunities for half a century. 4 bodyguards flanked her, large men in dark suits who stood close enough to be effective, but far enough away to maintain the illusion that this was simply a wealthy old woman having dinner. Then he entered, Dante Moretti. Elle had heard the name whispered by the other servers, the head of the family, 32 years old. Took over when his father died during an FBI raid 14 years ago. Ruthless, calculated, a man who solved problems with violence when necessary and silence when violence was not enough. He moved like violence contained, every step deliberate, every glance sharp enough to cut. Dark hair, eyes like obsidian, black and hard and reflective. A scar cut through his left eyebrow. His suit probably cost $10,000, but he wore it like work clothes. He sat across from his mother, leaned in to listen as she spoke. The bodyguards positioned themselves at careful angles. Gerald appeared at Elle's elbow. His voice was barely a whisper. Table 12 needs water. Sparkling. Go. And Hayes, do not look them in the eye. Do not speak unless they speak first. Do not exist. Elle picked up the crystal pitcher, felt the weight of it, the cold glass against her palm. She walked across the dining room, her footsteps silent on the thick carpet, her heart beat loud in her own ears. She approached the table. Isabella was speaking in Italian, soft but firm, the tone of a mother who expected to be obeyed. Dante responded in English. Family is loyalty, Mama. Betrayal is cancer. It must be cut out. Elle poured water into Isabella's glass. The sound of liquid hitting crystal seemed too loud. The old woman glanced up. For just a moment, the invisible waitress became visible. Isabella's eyes were tired, kind beneath the steel. Thank you, dear. The words were soft, almost sad. Elle broke protocol, broke Gerald's rules. You are welcome. Her voice was barely a whisper, but it cut through the ambient noise of the restaurant like a blade. Dante's eyes snapped to her, cold, assessing, looking at her the way a scientist looks at something unexpected under a microscope. Before he could speak, before he could reprimand her for the audacity of speech, a sound shattered the quiet murmur of expensive conversation. A gasp, wet, desperate. The sound of someone drowning on dry land. Elle froze. She looked down. Isabella Moretti was clutching her throat. Her face had been pale a moment ago. Now it was turning a terrifying shade of beetroot red, then violet, the color of oxygen deprivation, the color of dying. The crystal glass in Isabella's hands shattered against the white tablecloth. Water and broken glass spread like blood. Mama! Dante shot to his feet so fast his chair clattered backward. His voice was raw, stripped of all control. Mama, what is happening? Someone help her! Help her! The bodyguards swarmed in, large men trained in violence, trained in protection. But they were not trained in this. They looked at each other with panic in their eyes, hands hovering uselessly, as if they could shoot the heart attack away. The restaurant went silent. Dozens of the city's wealthiest and most powerful people sat frozen. Elle saw a man at table 7. She recognized him, Dr. Richard Chen, famous cardiologist. His picture was in the hospital newsletters. He looked at Isabella Moretti and then looked away. At table 9, a state senator pulled out his phone, not to call for help, to record. No one moved. They were afraid, all of them, afraid of the Moretti name. afraid that if they tried to help and failed, if the matriarch died under their hands, the consequences would be lethal. Better to be a witness than a participant. Better to do nothing than risk everything. Elle watched Isabella's eyes. They were terrified. The decision happened in her body before her mind caught up. She had spent 3 years in nursing school before money forced her out. 3 years learning to recognize the signs. This was not choking. Choking makes noise. Wheezing, gasping. This was silent. This was the heart-stopping mid-beat. Cardiac arrest. Elle dropped the water pitcher. It hit the marble floor like a gunshot. Crystal exploding into 1,000 pieces that scattered like stars across the expensive stone. Move. Her voice cut through the panic, sharp, commanding. She shoved past a bodyguard who was easily twice her size. He looked ready to snap her in half. I said move. Dante turned on her. His face was a mask of fury and terror combined into something barely human. What do you think you are doing? She is in cardiac arrest. Her heart stopped. I need to get to her now. Elle did not wait for permission. Permission would take too long. Isabella's brain was dying with every second that passed. 4 minutes until permanent damage. 6 minutes until death. She grabbed Isabella by the shoulders and pulled. The old woman was surprisingly heavy. Dead weight. Elle dragged her from the booth and laid her flat on the cold marble floor. The Chanel suit tore, fabric ripping with a sound like tearing paper. The pearl necklace snapped. White beads scattered across the floor like hail, rolling under tables, bouncing off chair legs. Do not touch her. One of the bodyguards drew a weapon. A Glock 19. Elle saw it in her peripheral vision but did not stop. Let her work. Dante's voice cracked. Raw emotion breaking through. He knelt beside Elle. His hand hovered over his mother's face. Trembling. Save her. You save her or I swear to God, I will kill everyone in this room starting with you. Elle tuned him out, tuned out the gun, tuned out the whispers, tuned out Gerald's voice somewhere in the background, screaming about liability and lawsuits. Her world narrowed down to the sternum beneath her hands. She interlaced her fingers, positioned them over the center of Isabella's chest, and pushed. 1, 2, 3, 4. The rhythm was muscle memory, staying alive by the Bee Gees. 100 beats per minute, the perfect tempo for chest compressions. Ribs cracked. The sound was sickening, like stepping on dry twigs in a silent forest. Organic. Wrong. You are hurting her. Dante grabbed Elle's arm. His grip was iron. She could feel bruises forming beneath his fingers. I am keeping blood flowing to her brain. If I stop, she dies. Do you want her dead? Then let me go. She ripped her arm free, glared at him with a ferocity that matched his own. Their eyes locked. Hazel meeting Obsidian. For just a moment, the Mafia boss and the waitress existed on equal ground. Both terrified, both desperate. Dante let go. Elle went back to compressions, her arms burned. She had been on her feet for 17 hours yesterday. Had not eaten since breakfast. Had not slept more than 4 hours in 3 days. Her muscles screamed at her to stop. She pushed through the pain. 30 compressions. Then tilt the head. Pinch the nose. Create a seal with her mouth over Isabella's. Breathe, watch for chest rise. Nothing. The chest did not move. The air went nowhere, damn it. Elle went back to compressions. Sweat beaded on her forehead. Ran down her temples. The room was silent except for the wet sounds of CPR and Elle's ragged breathing. Time stretched. Seconds felt like hours. 1 minute passed. 2 minutes. She is gone. A bodyguard's voice. Soft. Defeated. Shut up. She is not gone. Dante was crying, tears streaming down his face. The most dangerous man in Boston on his knees weeping for his mother. Elle gritted her teeth. Put her entire body weight into the next compression. Pushed harder than she had pushed before. Felt something give way. Another rib probably. It did not matter. Only the heart mattered. Only the brain mattered. And then Isabella's body jerked. A gasp tore from her throat. Horrible. Ragged. The sound of life returning to a body that had been seconds from death. Her eyes flew open, blind with panic. She coughed, inhaled a massive shuddering breath. Elle collapsed backward onto her heels, her entire body shaking, vision spotting, adrenaline draining away, leaving only exhaustion. Turn her, on her side. She could barely get the words out. Her voice was hoarse, destroyed. Dante immediately moved, his hands gentle despite their size. He rolled his mother into the recovery position. Isabella was weeping softly, clutching her son's hand like a lifeline. Lorenzo, no. Dante, I am here, Mama, I am here. The most dangerous man in the city looked up. His dark eyes found Elle where she sat on the floor, her uniform stained with wine and floor grime, her hair escaping its bun, her hands still trembling. Elle expected gratitude, maybe relief, maybe even a simple thank you. Instead, Dante Moretti looked at her with an intensity that felt like physical weight. He did not smile. He stared at her as if she were a puzzle he needed to solve immediately, or a threat he had not anticipated. The moment stretched, impossible to read. Then the spell broke. "Ambulances are here!" Gerald's voice from the front entrance, shrill with terror. Paramedics rushed in, professional, efficient. They pushed Elle aside without ceremony, checked vitals, applied oxygen, loaded Isabella onto a stretcher with practiced movements. Dante stood, buttoned his suit jacket. The vulnerability vanished, replaced by armor made of ice and money and power. He looked down at Elle, reached into his pocket, pulled out a money clip, peeled off a stack of $100 bills without counting, dropped them on her lap like she was a street performer who had done a particularly entertaining trick. "For your trouble," his voice was cold, empty of emotion. He turned and followed the stretcher out into the rain, leaving Elle sitting alone on the floor of the most expensive restaurant in Boston, surrounded by broken glass and spilled water and cash that felt like an insult. She stared at the money, 50 bills, $5,000, more money than she had seen in one place in her entire life. It felt degrading. "I did not do it for money." Her voice was barely a whisper, too quiet for anyone to hear. The restaurant was already returning to normal, guests going back to their meals, servers cleaning up the broken glass. The incident packaged away into something that would become gossip by morning. Elle sat there for another minute, then she gathered the bills, folded them carefully, put them in her pocket. Pride was expensive. She could not afford it. The adrenaline crash hit 20 minutes later in Gerald's office. He sat behind his mahogany desk, wiping sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief that had his initials monogrammed in gold thread. Elle stood in front of him, arms crossed, trying to hide the tremor in her hands. "You understand my position, Miss Hayes." His voice was oily, apologetic in a way that held no actual apology. "I saved her life. The paramedics said if I had not started CPR, she would have been brain dead before they arrived. You assaulted a guest." Gerald's voice went up half an octave, shrill. "You broke her ribs, multiple ribs. Do you know the liability? Do you have any idea what kind of lawsuit the Moretti family could bring against this establishment?" She was dying. "It does not matter." Gerald slammed his hand on the desk. The sound made Elle flinch. "Our policy is strictly to call 911 and wait for professionals. You created a spectacle. You engaged directly with the Moretti family. We cannot have staff who attract that kind of attention. The Sapphire Room is a place of discretion, of privacy, of invisible service." He slid a white envelope across the desk. "I am letting you go, effective immediately. Here is your pay for the week plus 2 weeks severance. Consider it a generosity. Now please leave through the back entrance. I do not want the guests seeing you." Elle took the envelope. She wanted to scream, wanted to throw the stapler at his head, wanted to tell him exactly what she thought of his discretion and his privacy and his invisible service. Instead, she swallowed her pride. An Irish Catholic skill learned young. Keep your head down. Do not make scenes. Survive. She turned and walked out. The back alley was freezing. The rain had turned to sleet that stung her cheeks like small needles. Elle did not have a car. She had sold it 3 months ago to pay for her mother's emergency dialysis session. Now she walked, 3 miles from Back Bay to Dorchester, through neighborhoods that changed character with every 10 blocks. As she walked, she counted the money in her head. Severance from Gerald, $1,800. The cash Dante Moretti had thrown at her, $5,000. Total $6,800. Rent was $800. Past due electric bill was $180. Her mother's medications were $450 per month. Food for 2 people. Maybe another $300 if they were careful. Another $200 for heating oil before winter really hit. She would survive for maybe 3 months. Maybe 4 if she ate nothing but ramen and turned the heat off completely. Then what? She was blacklisted from the best restaurant in the city. Word would travel. Gerald would make sure of it. Who would hire a waitress who made scenes? Who broke protocol? Who drew attention? By the time Elle reached her apartment building, she was soaked to the bone. The Soviet-era block rose 6 stories. Gray concrete, broken intercom, graffiti in 3 languages. She climbed the 4 flights of stairs. Her legs felt like lead. She unlocked the door to apartment 4B. "Mom, I am home." Her voice was soft. Grace was asleep on the pull-out couch. The TV flickered with the evening news. Muted. Grace looked so frail. Her skin had that translucent quality, like tissue paper. Elle could see the veins beneath. She covered her mother with the Afghan her grandmother had crocheted 30 years ago. Made tea she did not drink. Stood at the window looking down at the street below. The black Escalade was still there. Engine running, headlights off, just sitting across the street like it had been there all day. Waiting, Elle frowned. Cars like that did not park in Dorchester. Not for hours. Not with the engine running. She watched for 5 minutes. No one got out. No one got in. It just sat there. Patient. Inevitable. Paranoia, she told herself. You are exhausted, seeing threats where there are none. She took a shower to wash away the smell of the restaurant. The blood, the fear, the humiliation. Crawled into her small bed. Sleep came instantly. A dark, dreamless void that swallowed her whole. She did not hear the men watching her building. Did not see the lights go on in the Escalade. Did not know that her name was being discussed in a mansion 15 miles away by people who had decided her fate without asking her opinion. Bang! 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 Elle jolted awake, heart hammering against her ribs like it was trying to escape. The room was pitch black. The digital clock read 3:17 in the morning. 3:17. The hour when nothing good ever happened. Bang! 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 Someone was pounding on the front door. Not knocking. Pounding like they were trying to break through with their fists. Elle! Elle, wake up! Her mother's voice, trembling with terror. Elle grabbed the baseball bat she kept under her bed, the Louisville slugger her father had given her when she moved to this neighborhood. Just in case, he had said. Just in case, she rushed out into the hallway. Grace stood there in her nightgown, clutching her robe, looking small and old and frightened. Who is it? Elle shouted through the door, trying to sound braver than she felt. Miss Hayes, open the door. A deep voice, male, authority in every syllable, the kind of voice that expected obedience and usually received it. I am calling the police. We are not the police. And if you call them, things will get complicated. Mr. Moretti requests your presence. The blood drained from Elle's face. She lowered the bat. If the Morettis were at her door at 3 in the morning, a baseball bat was about as useful as harsh language against a tank. Elle, what did you do? Grace's voice was thin, terrified. Elle could not tell her the truth. Could not tell her mother that she had broken protocol and saved a Mafia matriarch's life, and now men with guns were at their door in the middle of the night. Nothing, Mom. It is just a work thing, a misunderstanding from the restaurant. I will go sort it out. I will be back for breakfast. She was lying. They both knew it, but Grace was too scared to push. Elle opened the door. 2 men filled the doorway, both huge, over 6 feet, shoulders like linebackers, dark suits that bulged in places where weapons were holstered. One of them was the bodyguard she had shoved at the restaurant, Tony. He looked at her with a mixture of annoyance and something that might have been respect. Mr. Moretti wants to see you. His voice was flat, professional. Now it is 3 in the morning. Mr. Moretti operates on his own time. And if I say no? Tony smiled. It did not reach his eyes. He glanced past Elle at Grace standing in the hallway, frail, vulnerable. The threat was unspoken but crystal clear. Mr. Moretti insists. He would hate to have to insist harder. Elle dropped the bat. Let me get dressed. 2 minutes. She rushed to her room, pulled on jeans, a thick sweater, boots, grabbed her phone but saw she had no signal. Of course. They were jamming it. Professional. Thorough. She walked back out, hugged her mother tight. Grace felt like bones wrapped in skin. Mom, I have to go sort this out. Lock the door behind me. Do not open it for anyone. I will be back soon. I promise. You are scaring me. I know. I love you. Elle stepped out into the hallway. The guards flanked her, escorted her down the stairs and out into the freezing night. The black Escalade waited at the curb, engine purring, exhaust visible in the cold air. The back door opened. Elle climbed in. The interior smelled like leather and cigars and money. The door slammed shut, locked automatically. She was alone in the back seat. The partition to the driver was closed, tinted. She could not see who was driving. The car began to move, gliding through the potholed streets of Dorchester with expensive suspension that smoothed every bump. They drove through Roxbury, through Jamaica Plain, into Newton where the houses grew larger and the lawns grew wider and the walls grew higher. Elle looked out the tinted windows, tried to memorize the route, but after 20 minutes all the trees looked the same, all the stone walls, all the iron gates. They were not taking her to a police station, not to the restaurant. They were taking her somewhere private, somewhere no one would hear her scream. I saved his mother, Elle told herself. You do not kill the person who saved your mother. That would be insane. But insane was relative in this world. And Elle was beginning to realize she had stepped into a world where the normal rules did not apply. The car turned onto a long driveway, trees on both sides, old growth oaks that had been standing since before the revolution. The driveway curved, and then the house appeared. It was not a house. It was a fortress pretending to be a Tuscan villa. 3 stories of stone and glass and iron, positioned on a hill that overlooked the darkened suburbs below. Lights blazed in every window. Even at 3:30 in the morning, the car stopped at the front entrance. Tony opened her door. This way. Elle climbed out, her boots crunched on gravel. She was marched up marble steps, through doors that looked like they belonged on a cathedral, into an entrance hall that was larger than her entire apartment. The floor was marble, real Italian marble with veins of gold running through it. A chandelier hung from the ceiling 3 stories up. Crystal, probably worth more than Elle would earn in her entire lifetime. Keep moving. Tony guided her down a hallway. Their footsteps echoed. They passed rooms full of art, paintings Ellie recognized from her father's library books. Was that a Caravaggio? It could not be. It had to be a reproduction. No one kept real Caravaggios in their house. They stopped at a set of heavy oak doors. Tony knocked once. Enter. The voice from inside was low, controlled. Dante Moretti. Tony opened the doors, pushed Elle inside gently but firmly, then closed the doors behind her, leaving her alone. The library smelled like old paper and brandy and gun oil, 3 scents that should not go together but somehow did. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves aligned the walls. A fire crackled in a hearth large enough to stand in. Leather chairs faced the flames. Dante Moretti stood by the window, his back to her. He held a tumbler of amber liquid, looking out at the darkness beyond the glass. He did not turn when she entered. Silence stretched. Elle counted her heartbeats, got to 30 before he spoke. You live far from your work, Miss Hayes. His voice was conversational, almost casual, which made it more terrifying. I live where I can afford. Why am I here? Am I being arrested or executed? Dante turned. The firelight caught his face, sharp cheekbones, the scar through his eyebrow, eyes like black glass. He took a sip of his drink, walked slowly to the massive desk that dominated the center of the room. If I wanted you dead, you would never have woken up. He picked up a manila folder, tossed it onto the desk. It slid across the polished wood and stopped directly in front of where Elle stood. Open it. Elle hesitated, then stepped forward, flipped the folder open. Her breath caught in her throat. It was her life, all of it. Photocopied and organized with terrifying efficiency. Her birth certificate from Boston City Hospital, her high school transcripts from South Boston High, her acceptance letter to Boston College, her nursing school records. Incomplete. Top 8% of her class before she dropped out. Her mother's medical files from Massachusetts General. Every dialysis session, every bill, every overdue notice. The eviction warning from her landlord. 3rd and final notice. The one she had hidden under the coffee can. Utility bills, credit card statements, every private detail of her desperate financial situation laid bare. You investigated me. Her voice came out as a whisper. She felt violated, exposed, like he had stripped her naked and examined every flaw. I investigate everyone who touches my family. Dante circled the desk, stood in front of her. He was tall, at least 6'2". He towered over her. Elle was 5'5" in boots. She had to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. Alara Margaret Hayes, top of your class in nursing school, dropped out 6 months ago. Why? He said her full name like he owned it, like he had purchased the rights to it, along with everything else in that folder. You can read. You know why. Tuition or dialysis. You chose your mother. Dante closed the folder. His eyes never left hers. Noble and stupid. It is not stupid to love someone. It is when it leaves you destitute and working for tyrants like Price. Elle felt anger flare hot in her chest. She was exhausted, terrified, and now being lectured by a criminal about her life choices. Why am I here? Just tell me. Did I do something wrong? Did I offend you somehow? Because I saved your mother's life, and I thought that might count for something, but apparently I was wrong. Dante leaned against the desk, crossed his arms. For a long moment, he just looked at her, assessing, calculating. Here is the situation, Alara. My mother, Isabella, is difficult. She does not trust doctors, does not trust hospitals, believes they are places where people go to die. Since the incident at the restaurant, she has refused to let any of my private medical staff near her. Says they are cold, soulless, medical machines in human form. He paused, his jaw tightened. She asked for you, so specifically, the girl with the sad eyes who broke her ribs. She insists you have good hands, whatever that means. I do not believe in such nonsense, but I believe in keeping my mother alive. Elle blinked, tried to process. She wants me. Her condition is stable but fragile. She needs 24-hour monitoring for the next month. Medications, diet management, physical therapy, someone who can recognize the signs if she has another episode. I am not a registered nurse. I did not finish. I do not care about the piece of paper. Dante pushed off the desk, stepped closer. Elle could smell sandalwood, could see the faint stubble on his jaw, could count the flecks of silver at his temples. I saw what you did at the restaurant. You kept your head when trained men panicked. You knew what to do, and you did it without hesitation. That is worth more than any degree. He was offering her a job. The realization hit slowly. I am offering you a position. You will live here. In this house, you will watch over Isabella. Make sure she takes her medications. Make sure she eats. Make sure she does not hide pills in flower pots or try to sneak wine when no one is looking. And in exchange, Dante snapped his fingers, a sharp sound in the quiet library. In exchange, I will clear your mother's debt at Massachusetts General, all $42,000 of it. I will also pay for a private nurse to visit Grace at your apartment twice a day, morning and evening, so you do not have to worry about her while you are here. And I will pay you $10,000 per month for your time. Elle felt the room tilt. $10,000 per month. Her mother's debt erased. Professional care for Grace. It was the answer to every prayer she had whispered in the dark for the past 2 years. It was freedom. It was also a trap. And if I say no, Dante's expression did not change. But the temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Then you walk out that door. You go back to your eviction notice. Your mother's treatment stops next week when the hospital cuts off her credit. You lose your apartment, probably end up in a shelter. And I find someone else to bribe or threaten into taking care of Isabella. He leaned even closer. Elle could feel the heat radiating off him. It is your choice, Alara. Pride or survival. He knew exactly where to hit her, knew her weaknesses, had done his research thoroughly. He was a monster, but he was a monster offering her a lifeline. I have conditions. The words came out stronger than she felt. Dante raised one eyebrow. The scar through it made the expression look dangerous. You are in no position to negotiate. I want to see my mother every weekend, and I want half the money up front deposited into her account. So I know this is not a lie. Silence. Dante stared at her. Elle forced herself to hold his gaze. Her father's voice in her head. Never accept the first offer. Always know your value. 30 seconds passed. Felt like 30 years. Then the corner of Dante's mouth twitched. Not quite a smile, but close. Done. He extended his hand, large, calloused, a working man's hand despite the expensive suit. Welcome to the family, Miss Hayes. Elle took his hand. His grip was warm, strong, electric, like touching a live wire. She had just sold her soul to the devil, and she prayed she would survive long enough to cash the check. Dawn was breaking when Elle finally saw her room. Tony escorted her up 2 flights of stairs, down a hallway lined with paintings that were definitely not reproductions, into a suite that was larger than her entire Dorchester apartment, a 4-poster bed with silk sheets, a balcony overlooking manicured gardens, a marble bathroom with heated floors, a walk-in closet already filled with clothes in exactly her size. How did you know my size? Elle asked. Tony just looked at her. Mr. Moretti is thorough. He left. Closed the door. Elle heard the click of the lock. She was not a prisoner, but she was not exactly free either. She sat on the edge of the bed, pulled out her phone. The signal had returned. She had 17 missed calls from her mother, 3 voicemails, all panicked. Before she could call back, her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Your mother is in good hands. Angela Torres, RN, will be there at 8 a.m. $5,000 has been deposited into Grace Hayes' account at Bank of America. This is not a lie. Sleep well. DM. Elle stared at the text, opened her banking app, refreshed again. The money was there. $5,000. Sitting in her mother's account. Real. Tangible. Not a trick. A second text came through. Rosa will bring breakfast at 8. You meet Isabella at 9. Do not be late. Elle set her phone down, looked around the gilded cage she had just entered. The silk sheets, the marble floors, the locked door. She had saved a life 24 hours ago, expecting nothing. And in return, the universe had given her everything she needed and trapped her in a world she did not understand. The money was real. The nurse was real. The debt was gone. But so was her freedom. Elle lay back on the silk sheets, stared at the ceiling, painted with cherubs and clouds, closed her eyes, and wondered if she had just made the best decision of her life or signed her own death warrant. Only time would tell, and time in the Moretti house moved by different rules. Outside her window, the sun rose over Newton, painting the sky in shades of gold and red, the colors of wealth, and the colors of blood. They looked the same in the early morning light. The first morning in the Moretti house, Elle woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows she did not remember seeing in the dark. For 3 seconds, she forgot where she was. Then memory returned with the weight of iron chains, the restaurant, the CPR, the middle-of-the-night extraction. The deal. She sat up in the silk sheets, looked at her phone. 7:45 a.m. A text from her mother. Elle, Angela just arrived. She is wonderful. Says you arranged this? What is happening? Are you okay? Elle typed back quickly. I am fine, Mom. New job. Live in position. Very good money. I will explain this weekend. Love you. A knock at the door. Not the aggressive pounding from last night. Polite. Almost timid. Come in. An older woman entered. Round face, kind eyes. Gray hair pulled into a bun. She carried a breakfast tray that smelled like heaven. Fresh coffee. Real coffee. Pastries that were still warm. Fruit cut into perfect geometric shapes. Good morning, Miss Hayes. I am Rosa. Housekeeper. Signor Moretti says you join him and Signora Isabella for breakfast at 8. Sunroom, I show you. Her accent was thick, Italian mixed with decades of Boston. She set the tray on the small table by the window, poured coffee into a porcelain cup so delicate Elle was afraid to touch it. Thank you, Rosa smiled. Then her face turned serious. Rules, Signorina. For your safety, do not wander a state alone until you know the layout. Do not go to East Wing. That is Signor Dante's private quarters. Do not speak of business, you hear. What happens in this house stays in this house. Capiche, I understand. Good. Signora Isabella is good woman. You will like her. Signor Dante, he is complicated. But he loves his mama more than anything in this world. You keep her healthy, you keep him happy. You keep him happy. You stay safe. The words hung in the air like a threat and a blessing combined. Rosa left. Elle drank the coffee. It tasted like something she could not afford in 12 lifetimes. She ate one pastry, forced herself to stop at one even though her body screamed for more. Years of poverty had trained her stomach to expect disappointment. At 7:55, she found her way to the sunroom. It was not difficult. The house had a logic to it once you understood the flow. Public spaces on the ground floor, private quarters above, and everywhere cameras in corners, red lights blinking, watching. The sunroom faced east. Light poured through glass walls that overlooked gardens too perfect to be real. Every hedge trimmed to identical height. Every flower bed planned with military precision. In the center of it all, a fountain with bronze dolphins frozen mid-leap. Isabella Moretti sat in a high-backed chair that looked like a throne. She wore a silk robe in deep purple. Her silver hair was down, loose around her shoulders. Without the severe bun, she looked softer, almost fragile. Dante stood by the window, coffee cup in hand. He had traded his suit for dark slacks and a white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows. Elle could see tattoos on his forearms, symbols she did not recognize, probably family marks, probably indicating ranks or kills or territories. Ah, the girl who saved my life. Isabella's voice was warm, rich like expensive chocolate. She gestured to the chair beside her. Sit. Cara, let me look at you in the daylight. Elle sat. Isabella studied her face with the intensity of a jeweler examining a diamond for flaws. You have kind eyes, sad but kind. My son told me you gave up nursing school for your mother. Yes, ma'am. Do not call me ma'am. I am Isabella, and you are Alara. We will be spending much time together. No need for formality. Dante turned from the window. His eyes met Elle's, unreadable. How is she, Isabella asked. Your mother. Elle swallowed. Better. Thanks to the nurse you sent. Angela said her vitals are stable. Good. I know what it is to watch someone you love suffer. To feel helpless. A shadow crossed Isabella's face. Memory of pain. My husband, Salvatore, Dante's father. He died of heart attack during FBI raid. I was not there. I have regretted that every day for 14 years. To die alone, To die afraid. No one should die that way. Dante's jaw tightened. He looked away. Breakfast arrived, served by staff who moved like ghosts. Food appeared and disappeared without conversation. Eggs cooked perfectly. Bread that tasted like it had been made that morning, probably had been. Fruit that was out of season and therefore expensive. Elle ate carefully, aware of being watched. Isabella picked at her food. Dante ate methodically, efficiently, like refueling a machine. After breakfast, Isabella led Elle through her daily routine. Blood pressure check, 135 over 88, improved from the hospital. Heart rate, 72 beats per minute, steady. Medications organized in a plastic case that probably cost more than Elle's entire wardrobe. I hate these pills, Isabella's voice was petulant. Like a child being forced to eat vegetables. They keep you alive. They make me foggy, slow. I used to be sharp. Now I feel dull. Elle understood, had seen it in nursing school, the trade-off between life and quality of life. But alive and foggy was better than dead and sharp. The first week passed in a rhythm that felt almost normal. Elle learned the layout of the estate. 24 security cameras, 12 guards in 8-hour rotations, panic rooms disguised as closets, bulletproof glass in every window. This was not a home. It was a fortress pretending to be a home. Jamie Cross ran security, Irish-American, late 30s, professional to the point of coldness. He gave Elle the safety briefing on her third day. Rule 1, do not leave the grounds without clearance from me or Mr. Moretti. Rule 2, do not ask questions about business. Rule 3, if something happens, if you hear gunshots or alarms, you get Mrs. Isabella to the nearest panic room and you stay there until I personally come get you. Understood? Understood. Jamie's eyes were tired. She noticed that, and his hands shook slightly when he thought no one was looking. Stress, Elle assumed. Running security for a crime family probably involves stress levels normal people could not comprehend. By day 5, Elle had fallen into a routine. Morning vitals check with Isabella. Breakfast in the sunroom. Physical therapy walks through the gardens. Lunch. Afternoon reading time where Isabella napped and Elle caught up on medical journals Dante had somehow acquired for her. Dinner. Evening medications. Then Elle retreated to her room. Dante was rarely present. He disappeared most days. Came back late. Elle would hear his car in the driveway at midnight or later. Sometimes she heard raised voices from the East Wing, Italian spoken too fast for her limited understanding. Once she heard what sounded like breaking glass. The next morning, Dante appeared at breakfast with bruised knuckles. No one mentioned it. On Saturday of the first week, Jamie drove up Elle to Dorchester. The black town car looked absurd parked on her street. Kids gathered around it like it was a spaceship. Grace cried when she saw Elle, hugged her so tight Elle could feel every bone in her mother's spine. You look good. You look healthy. What is this job? Really? Private nursing? For a very wealthy Italian family. The pay is extraordinary. And look, Elle showed her mother the bank balance on her phone, $15,000. More money than Grace Hayes had seen in 5 years. Grace cried harder. They spent 4 hours together, watched terrible daytime television, ate Chinese takeout that Elle paid for without checking the price first. It felt like a miracle, small and ordinary and perfect. When Jamie came to pick her up, Grace hugged her again. Be careful, baby. Rich people, they are not like us. They do not play by the same rules. I know, Mom, I will be careful. But Elle was not sure she believed herself. Week 2 brought the first chess game. It happened on a Tuesday evening. Elle was checking Isabella's vitals in the sunroom when Dante entered. He carried a wooden box under his arm, ornately carved. Old. Mama, would you like to play? Isabella's face lit up, then fell. I cannot focus today, Figlio. The medications make my head swim. All the pieces look the same. Dante looked disappointed. He set the box on the small table between 2 chairs, opened it. Inside was a chess set carved from marble, white and black, each piece perfect. Elle had been about to leave. Give them privacy. But Isabella caught her arm. Alara plays. I have seen her watching our games. She knows the moves. Dante looked up, skeptical. Miss Hayes, do you play chess? Elle hesitated. Her father's chess set was particle board and plastic. Broken pieces held together with tape. This set probably cost more than a car. I know how the pieces move. That is not the same as playing. The condescension in his voice sparked something in Elle's chest. Irish pride mixed with exhaustion, mixed with being patronized one too many times. I know enough. Dante gestured to the chair opposite him. Humor me. Elle sat, Isabella settled onto the sofa nearby, smiling like she knew a secret. Dante set up the pieces. Elle chose black. Defensive position. Let him make the first move. Learn his style before committing. He opened with king's pawn to e4. Aggressive, standard. Elle countered with c5. The Sicilian defense. Dante paused, looked at the board, then at her. You do know theory. My father taught me. We played every Sunday after Mass. What did your father do? He was a janitor at MIT for 30 years, and he taught you chess. He taught me to see patterns. He said people who sweep floors notice the dirt everyone else steps over. Dante moved his knight. Elle moved her pawn. They played in silence. The only sound was marble clicking against marble and the soft crackling of the fire. 10 moves in, Elle sacrificed her bishop. Dante took it immediately, pressed his advantage, moved his queen into attacking position. You are losing, Miss Hayes. Am I? Elle moved a single pawn forward. Just one square. Dante frowned, studied the board. His eyes widened slightly. The pawn move had opened a diagonal. Her rook now had a clear line to his king. His own pieces blocked his escape. Any move he made would worsen his position. Zugzwang. The word came out as a whisper. German. It meant being forced to move when any move makes things worse. Dante looked up, really looked at her. Not at a waitress, not at hired help, at an equal across a board. Who taught you this? My father, Patrick Hayes. He read every philosophy book in the MIT library, taught me Machiavelli and Plato and Sun Tzu. Said strategy is the same whether you are moving armies or chess pieces. What else did he teach you? That the person with nothing to lose is the most dangerous player at the table. Dante leaned back, steepled his fingers, the gesture of a man reassessing everything he thought he knew. I resign, Isabella clapped from the sofa. Brava, I told you, Dante, she is special. But Dante was not looking at his mother. His eyes stayed locked on Elle. Something had shifted. The air between them felt charged. Electric. Again. Tomorrow night, 9 p.m., library. It was not a question. Elle opened her mouth to say she needed to check Isabella's evening medications. But Isabella waved her hand. I can take my own pills for one night. Go. Play. My son needs someone who can beat him occasionally. Keeps him humble. Dante stood, walked to the window, looked out at the darkening gardens. Tomorrow, 9 p.m. He left without another word. Isabella reached over and patted Elle's hand. Her skin was paper thin, warm. Be careful, Kara. Of what? Of my son. He has been alone for so long. Built walls around his heart. Walls of ice and steel. But you are melting them. And when ice melts, everything floods. The second chess game happened in the library as promised. 9 p.m. exactly. Elle knocked on the heavy oak doors. Enter. Dante was already seated at a small table near the fire. 2 glasses of red wine waited. The chess set was different this time. Wooden, hand-carved, old. This was my father's set. He taught me to play when I was 6 years old. Elle sat, took the offered wine glass, sipped. It tasted expensive, complex, layers of flavor she did not have words for. They played. Dante opened more aggressively this time. Queen's gambit, offering a pawn to gain position. Elle did not take the bait, defended patiently, built her position slowly. As they played, they talked. Why nursing, Dante asked. Why not medical school? Your grades were high enough. Doctors diagnose puzzles. Nurses care for people. I wanted to care. And now I am here, playing chess with a man who terrifies half of Boston. Do I terrify you? Elle looked up, met his eyes across the board, sometimes, but not in the way you think. Explain. You terrify me because you see too much. You investigated my entire life in less than 12 hours. You know things about me I have never told anyone. That kind of attention is terrifying. Dante moved his bishop. And you see too much as well. You knew my mother was dying before my guards did. You saw patterns they missed. That kind of sight is dangerous. The game ended in a stalemate, neither player willing to sacrifice what was needed for victory. Dante poured more wine, told her about his father, about being 18 years old and inheriting an empire he did not want, about giving up architecture school to become something he hated. I wanted to build beautiful things. Instead, I destroy them. You built this estate. These gardens, I bought them. Not the same. You keep your mother alive. You employ 200 people. You protect them by being a monster, by being strong. They talked until 2 in the morning, until the fire burned down to embers. until the wine was gone and the only light was the moon through the windows. When Elle finally stood to leave, Dante caught her wrist, gentle, his hand warm against her pulse point. Thank you. For what? For seeing me as human. He let go. Elle left, walked back to her room in a daze. Her wrist still tingled where he had touched her. The chess games became routine. Every Tuesday and Thursday night, 9 p.m. they played, they talked. The conversations ranged from philosophy to practical survival to childhood memories to dreams abandoned. Elle learned that Dante read poetry, loved opera, had wanted to design sustainable housing for low-income families, had sketched entire neighborhood plans that would never be built. Dante learned that Elle spoke 3 languages, had a photographic memory for medical symptoms, dreamed of opening a free clinic in Dorchester, but knew it would never happen. By week 4, the games were just an excuse. They barely moved pieces. They talked about everything, about nothing. One night, Dante reached across the board and took her hand, just held it. His thumb traced circles on her palm. I cannot stop thinking about you, Alara. You should not. Since when did should matter in this house? They almost kissed. Almost. Then Isabella's medical alert alarm went off. False alarm. She had pressed the wrong button, but the moment shattered. By week 5, Elle noticed changes in Jamie Cross. He was drinking. She could smell it on him during morning security briefings. His hands shook worse. His eyes had that hollow look Elle recognized from addiction counseling rotations. She mentioned it to Dante. He brushed it off. Jamie has been with me 12 years, since I was 20. He is family. Family can betray you. Not Jamie, never Jamie. But Elle saw things. Jamie on his phone speaking in rapid Irish Gaelic. Jamie disappearing for hours during his shift. Jamie meeting someone in the gardens late at night. A man in a leather jacket she did not recognize. She filed it away. Kept watching. Week 6 began with an announcement at breakfast. We are hosting a gala this Saturday. Charity fundraiser. Ocean conservation. Dante's voice was casual, but his eyes were serious. Isabella smiled. Oh, how wonderful. I have not been to a party in months. You will attend for 1 hour only, then back to rest. Dante looked at Elle. You will attend as well. Stay with Isabella. Monitor her. I am a nurse, not a party guest. You are whatever I need you to be. And Saturday night, I need you visible. At my side. The words hung heavy with meaning. Elle did not fully understand. That afternoon, a stylist arrived. 3 women with measuring tapes and fabric samples and opinions about Elle's hair and skin and body that were both flattering and insulting. They left behind a dress, emerald green silk, backless, a slit up the thigh that seemed designed to cause cardiac arrest in onlookers. Elle stared at it hanging in her closet. This was not her. She was scrubs and sensible shoes and hair in a ponytail. This was someone else's life. But Saturday came anyway. The estate transformed. Caterers arrived at dawn. Florists turned the ballroom into a garden. An orchestra set up in the corner. By 7 p.m., the house blazed with light. Elle descended the grand staircase at 8. The dress felt like a costume, like she was playing pretend. But when she reached the bottom, Dante was waiting. He wore a tuxedo. Perfect fit. He looked like money and danger combined into something that should be illegal. He saw her, stopped mid-conversation with a man Elle vaguely recognized. Maybe a politician, maybe a criminal. Hard to tell the difference. Dante's eyes tracked her descent. Dark, hungry, possessive in a way that should have terrified her, but instead sent heat through her veins. Mr. Moretti, Ilara. Her name and his voice sounded like a prayer and a curse. You look adequate. High praise. His hand went to the small of her back, warm through the thin silk. He leaned close, whispered so only she could hear. You look like every fantasy I have had for 5 weeks. Now go. Stay with my mother, and stay away from the man in the white suit by the bar. Lucas Santoro. He is a snake. The ballroom filled with dangerous money. Elle recognized types if not faces. Politicians, judges, business owners, and scattered among them, men who carried themselves like Dante, like violence contained in expensive suits. Isabella held court on a velvet sofa, regal, commanding. Elle stayed close, monitored breathing, watched for signs of fatigue. At 10 p.m., a young waiter brought a tray of water glasses to their table. Water for Signora Moretti. He was young, 22 maybe, nervous. His hand shook as he set down the crystal glass. Elle watched him. Years of restaurant experience made her notice things. This was not normal nervousness. This was fear. The waiter's eyes darted, his Adam's apple bobbed. He was terrified. Isabella reached for the glass. Wait. Elle's voice was sharp. Isabella paused. Elle leaned close to the glass, examined it in the candlelight. The water looked clear, but there was something, a faint film on the surface, almost invisible, and a smell. Bitter, like almonds, but wrong. Not cyanide, that was too obvious. But digitalis maybe. Crushed heart medication. In Isabella's condition, it would cause fatal arrhythmia within minutes. Do not drink that. Elara, I am thirsty. I said, do not. Elle grabbed the glass, looked for the waiter. He was already retreating. Fast. Too fast. Isabella, stay here. Do not eat or drink anything. I will be right back. Elara, where are you going? Elle did not answer. She followed the waiter. Through the ballroom, through the kitchen chaos, out the back door into the gardens. The night air was cold. Elle's breath came out in clouds. She saw the waiter 20 yards ahead. On his phone. It is done. She drank it. The old woman is finished. Elle's blood turned to ice. The waiter turned, saw her. His eyes went wide. He reached into his jacket, pulled a knife, switchblade, 6-inch blade that caught moonlight. You should not have followed me. Who sent you? Does it matter? You are both dead anyway. He lunged. Elle dodged. The blade missed her throat by inches, sliced through air where her carotid had been. She stumbled backward, her heels sinking into grass. Expensive shoes not made for running or fighting or surviving assassination attempts. The waiter came at her again. Faster. Elle grabbed for anything. Found a garden ornament, heavy stone, maybe 15 pounds. She swung it, connected with his wrist. Bones cracked. The knife fell, but he pulled a gun from an ankle holster. Small caliber, probably 22. Close range, it would do the job. He raised it, aimed at Elle's chest. She was going to die in an emerald dress in a garden owned by the Mafia. Her mother would never know what happened. Then the night exploded, a gunshot, loud as the world ending. The waiter's head snapped back. A small red hole appeared in his forehead. Perfect. Precise. He dropped like someone cut his strings. Elle spun. Dante stood 15 feet away, smoking Beretta in his hand, face twisted with rage that was not directed at her. 3 guards materialized behind him, Tony and 2 others, moving fast, securing the scene. Dante crossed the distance in 3 strides, grabbed Elle by the shoulders, shook her. Did he touch you? Did he cut you? Answer me. No, I am fine. But Dante, he poisoned Isabella's water. I stopped her from drinking it. Dante froze, looked at her, really looked. Then pulled her against his chest, held her so tight she could barely breathe. His heart hammered against hers, his face buried in her neck. You saved her. Again. God help me, you saved her again. His voice broke. The most dangerous man in Boston shaking in her arms. She held him back. Let him have this moment of vulnerability, of human terror beneath the monster exterior. Then he pulled back, cupped her face with both hands, looked at her lips, at her eyes, at her mouth again. We need to go inside, lock down the estate. Someone inside let him in. Elle nodded, but her mind was racing. Someone inside, which meant betrayal, which meant they were not safe even here. Dante took her hand, laced his fingers through hers, possessive, protective. Stay with me. Do not leave my side tonight. That is not a request. They walked back toward the lights of the ballroom, leaving the dead assassin in the shadows. The gala continued inside, oblivious. Music and laughter and champagne. But everything had changed. Someone wanted Isabella dead. Someone had access to the estate. Someone was willing to risk Dante's wrath. And Elle Hayes, who 6 weeks ago was just a waitress trying to survive, was now standing at the center of a war she did not understand. The night was far from over. In fact, it had barely begun. The estate transformed into a fortress within minutes. Steel shutters descended over windows with mechanical precision. The romantic gala lighting died. Harsh security floods replaced it. Guests were herded into the main hall, confused, some angry, most terrified. Dante's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. Ladies and gentlemen, there has been a security incident. For your safety, no one leaves until the situation is contained. My apologies for the inconvenience. A man Elle recognized as Don Salvatore from Las Vegas stepped forward. Heavy jowls, gray mustache, eyes that had seen too much. What kind of incident, Moretti? Assassination attempt. On my mother, the perpetrator is dead, but we have reason to believe there was inside involvement. Until we identify who, everyone stays. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, fear mixed with calculation. In this world, showing fear was weakness, but being associated with a failed hit was dangerous. Elle stood next to Isabella. The old woman was pale but composed. Years of living in this world had taught her how to wear a mask. Dante caught Elle's eye across the room, jerked his head toward the door. She understood. Get Isabella somewhere safe. They moved through corridors Elle had memorized over 6 weeks. Guards flanked them, Tony in front, 2 others behind. Every shadow felt like a threat, every sound like an approaching bullet. The panic room was disguised as a wine cellar. Tony pressed a section of wall. It swung inward with a pneumatic hiss. Inside was a space maybe 12 by 12. Reinforced steel walls, communications equipment, medical supplies. Enough food and water for 3 days. You will be safe here, Mrs. Isabella. Isabella nodded, squeezed Elle's hand. Stay with Dante. He will need you tonight. I am your nurse. I stay with you. Tonight you are more than a nurse. Go, that is an order. Elle looked at Tony. He nodded. We have her. Boss needs you more. Elle left them. The door sealed behind her with a sound like a bank vault closing. She walked back through the halls, found Dante in the security office with Jamie Cross. The room was filled with monitors. Dozens of screens showing every angle of the estate. Jamie stood at the main console, reviewing footage. His face was drawn, sweating despite the cool air. Anything, Dante asked. His voice was flat, cold. Jamie shook his head, still checking. Whoever let him in knew where the cameras had blind spots. Elle stood in the doorway, watched. Something felt wrong. Jamie's body language was off. He kept touching his jacket pocket, checking his phone, looking at the door like he wanted to run. Dante noticed her. Elara, you should be with Isabella. She is secure. Tony has her. Good. Stay here. I need to question the staff. He left. Elle found herself alone with Jamie. The security chief did not look at her, kept his eyes on the monitors. You knew, the words came out before Elle could stop them. Jamie's shoulders tensed. Knew what? About the waiter? You changed the security protocols 3 weeks ago. Reduced coverage in the East Wing kitchen. Where he entered, Jamie's hand went to his jacket. Elle saw the shape of a gun there. Her heart rate spiked. You should leave, Miss Hayes. Not until you tell me why. Jamie turned. His eyes were hollow, haunted. The eyes of a man who had already given up. You do not understand. The debt. I owed $850,000, gambling. After Siobhan died, I could not stop. Could not breathe without betting. And they came, said they would kill me. Unless you helped them kill Isabella. Jamie flinched like she had struck him. Not kill, just access, just let someone in. They said it would be quick, painless. They lied. Who? Jamie opened his mouth, then his phone buzzed. He looked at it, all color drained from his face. I am sorry, I am so sorry. He ran, out the door, down the hallway. Elle should have let him go, should have called for Dante. But her body moved on instinct. She followed. Jamie ran through the estate, out a service exit Elle had not known existed, into the gardens. Elle stayed back, watching. He stopped at the edge of the property, near the tree line. A figure stepped from the shadows. Even from 50 yards away, Elle recognized him. The man in the white suit from the gala, Luca Santoro. She could not hear the conversation, but she saw Jamie shake his head, saw Santoro grab him by the collar, saw Jamie point back toward the house, toward where Elle was hiding. She ran, back through the gardens, through the service door. But she was turned around, disoriented. The hallways all looked the same in the emergency lighting. She found the library, locked the heavy oak doors behind her, pulled out her phone to call Dante. No signal. They were jamming communications. Elle looked around for a weapon. Fire poker. Better than nothing. She gripped it with both hands, positioned herself behind the door. If someone came through, she would have one chance, one swing. Minutes passed, felt like hours. Elle's arms ached from holding the poker ready. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might break through her ribs. Then the emergency lighting died. Complete darkness. The kind of dark that makes you question if your eyes are even open. Elle's breathing was too loud in the silence. She forced herself to breathe slower, quieter. Listen for footsteps, for voices, for anything. Then light exploded, white and blinding, flashbang grenades. The sound was a physical force. Elle screamed, dropped the poker, covered her ears but too late. Ringing, deafening, disorienting. Men in tactical gear stormed through the door. Not police, not FBI, private contractors. They moved with military precision. 4 of them, faces covered, night vision goggles flipped up now that the flashbang had done its job. Grab the girl, Elle fought, kicked at kneecaps, scratched at faces, connected with someone's jaw. Satisfying crunch. But there were too many. Hands grabbed her arms, zip-tied her wrists behind her back. Someone shoved a cloth bag over her head. The world went dark again. She heard gunfire in the distance, muffled through the bag. Dante's voice roaring her name. So close, but getting farther. They dragged her. She tried to memorize the path. 3 left turns, downstairs, outside. Cold air, vehicle door opening. She was thrown into what felt like a van. Metal floor, no seats. The door slammed. Engine started. They were moving. Elle lost track of time. Could have been 20 minutes. Could have been 2 hours. The bag smelled like chemical cleaner and fear. Someone else's fear soaked into the fabric. She wondered who had worn it before, if they had survived. When the van finally stopped, rough hands pulled her out, marched her forward. Her feet stumbled on uneven ground. Gravel maybe, then concrete, then wood. Old wood that creaked under weight. The bag was ripped off. Elle blinked against sudden light. Not bright, just dim bulbs hanging from exposed beams. She was in a warehouse, massive, empty except for shipping containers stacked like building blocks. The smell was salt and diesel and rotting fish. Water nearby, Boston Harbor maybe. A chair sat in the center of the space. Industrial. Bolted to the floor, they shoved her into it, zip-tied her ankles to the chair legs. Another tie around her waist securing her to the back. Then the men left, walking away into the shadows between containers. Their footsteps echoed, faded. Silence. Elle's heart hammered. She tested the zip ties, tight, professional, the kind that would cut into flesh if she pulled too hard. The chair was solid. No way to break it or tip it without breaking herself first. Think. Her father's voice. Chess is not about strength. It is about seeing the board. What was the board? Ulsarm. She was bait, obviously. They took her to lure Dante, which meant Dante was coming, which meant this was a trap, which meant a lot of people were going to do, unless. Elle looked at the chair. The bolts holding it to the floor were old, rusted. The wood beneath was water damaged, weak. If she could rock the chair hard enough, if she could break those bolts, not to escape. She was not getting out of this warehouse, but to have mobility, to be able to move when the moment came. She started rocking, gentle at first, testing. The chair shifted slightly. The bolts groaned. She rocked harder. The sound was loud in the silence. Someone would hear, but she had to risk it. 3 minutes of rocking. The left rear bolt broke free. The chair tilted. Elle almost fell, caught herself, kept going. 5 more minutes, the right rear bolt gave way. The chair was loose now, still attached at the front, but she could tip backward if needed, could move. Footsteps, multiple people approaching. Elle stopped, moving, tried to look helpless. Defeated. Let them think she had given up. 3 figures emerged from the shadows. Luca Santoro in his white suit, immaculate despite the warehouse grime. He held a handkerchief to his nose like the smell offended him. Behind him, 2 guards. And behind them, barely visible in the dim light, Jamie Cross. He would not meet Elle's eyes. Miss Hayes, the waitress who plays nurse, I have heard so much about you. Luca's voice was smooth, educated. The voice of someone who went to expensive schools and learned to hide violence under polish. Where is Dante? Oh, Mr. Moretti is currently tearing the city apart looking for you, which is exactly what I want. He is reckless when emotional. Makes mistakes, and I have been waiting 3 years for him to make a mistake. Elle looked at Jamie. He stood in the shadows, hands shaking. She could see the gun tucked into his waistband. Jamie, you do not have to do this. He flinched. Still would not look at her. He does not have a choice, Luca smiled. Cold, reptilian. Mr. Cross owes me money. A lot of money, and now he owes me loyalty. He will do exactly what I tell him, including putting a bullet in your head if necessary. Elle forced her voice steady. What do you want? Revenge. 3 years ago, Dante Moretti killed my brother. Marco shot him in the back during a territorial dispute. Dante claimed self-defense, but Marco was unarmed, executed like a dog. I am sorry for your loss. You will be sorrier soon. Luca pulled out a phone, dialed, put it on speaker. It rang twice. Moretti. Dante's voice, raw, barely controlled. Luca, I have your little nurse. Very pretty girl. Red hair looks lovely in this warehouse lighting. Shame if something happened to it. A crash over the phone. Dante destroying something. Where? Pier 12. Old fish cannery. Come alone. 1 hour. Or I start sending pieces of her back to your mother. I am coming. If you touch her, If you harm one hair on her head, I will kill everyone you have ever met. Your family, your friends, everyone. Tough words from a man with no leverage. 1 hour, Dante. Clock is ticking. Luca hung up, smiled at Elle. Now we wait. He turned to his men. Positions. I want snipers on the catwalks. Crossfire from the containers. When he walks through that door, I want him dead before he takes 3 steps. The men dispersed. Luca and Jamie stayed. Luca lit a cigarette. Expensive, Turkish maybe. The smoke curled toward the ceiling. You know he is going to kill you. Elle's voice was quiet but clear. Luca laughed. With what? He will walk in unarmed, alone, desperate. I will put a bullet in his brain and this will finally be over. I meant Jamie. When this is done, you will kill Jamie. Loose ends. Jamie's head snapped up, looked at Luca. The crime boss shrugged. She is not wrong, but that is future Jamie's problem. Present Jamie just needs to follow orders. Elle saw it then, the moment Jamie realized he was dead either way. If he helped, Luca would kill him to erase evidence. If he refused, Luca would kill him for disobedience. There was no way out, no survival path, unless he chose differently. Elle caught Jamie's eye, held it, tried to communicate without words. You can still choose. It is not too late. Jamie looked away. 40 minutes passed, the warehouse filled with men. Elle counted 12, maybe 15, all armed, all positioned strategically. Dante was walking into an execution, unless he was not as stupid as Luca believed. Then the main doors groaned open, massive steel doors that must have weighed tons. Light spilled in from the street beyond. A silhouette stood in the entrance. Tall, broad-shouldered, alone. I am here. Let her go. Dante's voice echoed through the warehouse. He walked in, hands raised, no visible weapons. His coat hung open, just a white shirt and dark pants. He looked unarmed, vulnerable. But Elle knew better. Dante Moretti did not walk into traps unprepared. Welcome, Dante. So noble, so predictable. Luca stepped from behind a container, gun pointed at Elle's head. His men emerged from shadows, rifles trained on Dante from a dozen angles. On your knees. Dante kept walking, slowly, eyes scanning the warehouse, cataloging positions, calculating odds. I said, kneel. Luca cocked the gun, pressed it against Elle's temple. Cold metal. She felt it against her skin. Smelled gun oil and cigarettes. Dante stopped. 20 feet away, locked eyes with Elle. She saw calculation there, saw strategy, saw something that looked almost like an apology. Then he smiled, knelt slowly, hands behind his head. Good. Now, Jamie, bring me the contracts. Time for Mr. Moretti to sign over his territories. Jamie moved forward, carrying papers. His hands shook so badly the pages rattled. He set them on a crate in front of Dante, pulled out a pen. Dante looked at the papers, then at Elle, then at the loose bolts on her chair. His eyes widened slightly, understanding. She had worked the chair loose. She could move. It was not much, but it was something. He looked back at the papers, picked up the pen, but did not sign. I am not signing anything. Luca pressed the gun harder against Elle's skull. Then she dies. Dante met Elle's eyes one more time, tapped his finger against the crate. Once, twice, 3 times. Their rhythm from the library, the signal they had developed over weeks of chess. The queen moves, now! Elle threw her weight backward. The chair tipped. The front bolts snapped. She hit the ground hard. Pain exploded through her shoulder, but she kept moving. Rolled away from where she had been. Dante did not throw a pen. He threw a small cylinder. Flash grenade. It hit the ground between them and detonated. White light obliterated vision. Sound obliterated hearing. In the chaos, Dante moved. Not away. Toward. He had a gun after all. Ankle holster, small Glock. He came up shooting. 2 shots. 2 of Luca's men dropped. Gunfire erupted from everywhere. Muzzle flashes in the disorientation. Elle could not see, could not hear. But she could move. Rolled behind a crate and as bullets sparked off concrete where she had been. Her zip ties. She needed to get them off. She felt along the crate, found a sharp edge of metal, started sawing the plastic against it. Awkward, painful. The plastic cut into her wrists. But it was working. Someone grabbed her ankle. She kicked, connected with a face. Satisfying crunch. The grip released. The zip ties broke. Her hands were free. She scrambled behind another container, looking for Dante in the chaos. She saw him fighting Luca, hand to hand, the gun gone, kicked away in the melee. They were matched, both trained, both vicious, fists connecting with bone, grunts of pain, the wet sounds of violence. But Luca's snipers had Dante in their sights. Elle saw one on the catwalk. Rifle aimed, finger on the trigger. No. Elle looked around desperately. Needed something. Anything. She saw it. A forklift parked against the wall. Keys in the ignition. She ran for it. Guards saw her. Raised weapons. She was faster. Reached the forklift. Turned the key. The engine roared to life. She had operated one of these exactly once. During a summer job at a warehouse in Southie, she hoped muscle memory would be enough. She aimed for the support beam holding up the catwalk. Gunned the engine. The forklift lurched forward. Picked up speed. 20 feet. 15. 10. The sniper saw her. Tried to adjust aim. Too late. The forklift hit the beam. Metal screamed. The beam buckled. The entire catwalk structure swayed, then collapsed. The sniper fell 30 feet, landed on a pile of wooden pallets, did not get up. But 3 more men were running at Elle. She was out of forklift, out of options. She jumped down, grabbed a piece of pipe from the debris, 2 feet of steel, heavy. She swung it like a baseball bat, connected with the first man's knee. He went down screaming. The second man grabbed for her. She brought the pipe up under his chin. He stumbled back, choking. The third man pulled a knife. Then Jamie was there. He shot the knife man in the shoulder. Then turned the gun on the other 2 guards converging on their position. Emptied the magazine. Bodies dropped. Jamie looked at Elle, blood running from his nose. Eyes wild. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I did not know he would hurt you. Elle stared at him. You chose. In the end, I chose. They turned back to the fight. Dante had Luca pinned against a container. Fist raised for another blow. But Luca pulled a knife from his belt, slashed upward, caught Dante across the ribs. Blood bloomed through the white shirt. Dante roared, grabbed Luca's wrist, twisted. The knife fell. Then Dante's hands were around Luca's throat, squeezing. Luca's face turned purple. He clawed at Dante's hands, drew blood, but Dante did not let go. Stop! Elle's voice cut through the chaos. Dante looked at her, eyes wild, barely human. He is done. You won. Dante held on for 3 more seconds, then released. Luca collapsed, gasping, alive but broken. Police sirens in the distance, growing closer. Someone must have called them. Gunshots in a warehouse district would attract attention. Dante stumbled, grabbed his bleeding side. Elle ran to him, caught him before he fell. He was heavy, solid muscle. She lowered him to sit against a container. You are hurt. I will live. I'm okay. You drove a forklift into a building. I saw an opening. I took it. Dante laughed, then winced. The laugh hurt. He looked at her, really looked. Blood on his face, in his hair, but his eyes were clear. You are not a waitress. You are a warrior. I am a nurse who is very tired. You are mine. He pulled her down, kissed her. Blood and adrenaline and desperation. Elle kissed him back, because she was alive. Because he was alive. Because in this moment, nothing else mattered. The police arrived, EMTs, Detective Ramirez, who knew Dante from a dozen previous investigations. Statements were taken. Lies were told. Self-defense. Kidnapping. Rescue. The story that would be written in reports. Jamie was arrested, but Dante's lawyer was already on the phone. Making arrangements. Charges would be reduced. Time would be minimal. The price of choosing correctly at the end. Elle rode in the ambulance with Dante, held his hand while the EMT stitched his side. 18 stitches, minor blood loss. He would be fine. At the hospital, Isabella was waiting, wheelchair pushed by Rosa. When she saw them, she wept, held Elle's face in both hands. You saved him. You saved my boy. We saved each other. That is how it should be. 6 months later, Elle sat at table 12 in the Sapphire Room, but not as a waitress. She wore a cream-colored dress, engagement ring on her finger, princess-cut diamond, tasteful, not ostentatious. Across from her sat Dante, less shadow in his eyes, lighter somehow. Beside him, Isabella, healthy, color in her cheeks, and next to Elle, Grace Hayes, no longer frail, dialysis successful. A donor kidney found through mysterious means, Elle suspected Dante had arranged but never asked about. The restaurant was under new management. Gerald Price had retired to Florida, paid handsomely to disappear. The new manager was fair, paid living wages, treated staff like humans. One of those staff approached their table. Young man, maybe 23. Nervous but eager. Good evening, Miss Hayes, Mr. Moretti. Your risotto. He set down the plates with care. Elle smiled at him. Thank you, Marcus. How is culinary school? His face lit up. Really good. The scholarship, it changed everything. Thank you. After he left, Grace looked at Elle. Scholarship? Dante and I started a foundation, Second Chances Fund, helps people from working class backgrounds get education. Job training. Marcus is our first culinary student. Her mother's eyes filled. When did you become this person? I have always been this person. I just needed the chance to prove it. Dinner was perfect. Conversation easy. Isabella told embarrassing stories about young Dante. Grace laughed until she cried. Dante pretended to be annoyed, but his smile gave him away. After dessert, Elle excused herself, walked through the restaurant. So many memories here. Terror and blood in the beginning of everything. Outside, rain fell. Soft summer rain, not the cruel sleet of 6 months ago. She stood under the awning, watched water blur the city lights. Dante appeared beside her, handed her his jacket. You will catch cold. I am fine. You are always fine. It is your default setting. Is that a complaint? An observation. He pulled her close. She leaned into him. Solid, warm, real. Do you regret it? Any of it? Elle thought about the question, about her life 6 months ago, invisible, desperate, barely surviving. Then thought about now, engaged to a man who terrified half of Boston, running a foundation, planning a wedding, living a life she never imagined. Not 1 second. Good. Because I cannot imagine life without you. You will not have to. They stood in the rain, watching the city, two people who saved each other, who found something worth fighting for in the chaos. Inside the restaurant, Isabella and Grace were comparing photos. Planning a wedding neither woman would live to see completed. But that was okay. They would see the beginning, the promise, the hope. Elle's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. She opened it. Miss Hayes, my name is Sarah. I am a single mother from Mattapan. I work 3 jobs. I want to be a nurse. Like you. Can your foundation help me? Elle showed the text to Dante. He read it, looked at her, smiled. Can we? We can. Elle typed back quickly. Sarah, yes, we can help. Come to my office Monday. We will talk. You have a future. I promise. She sent it. Put the phone away, looked up at Dante. The circle continues. What circle? People helping people. Second chances creating more second chances. It is how we change the world. One person at a time. When did you become so optimistic? When a criminal offered me a job and I was brave enough to say yes. Or stupid enough. Same thing sometimes. They went back inside. Back to family. Back to warmth and light and laughter. The life they built from the ashes of who they used to be. Outside, the rain continued. Washing the streets clean. Making everything new again. The city lights reflected in puddles like stars fallen to earth. And somewhere across town, Sarah read the text message. Read it again. And allowed herself to hope. The Queen's Gambit. Sometimes the most powerful move is the one nobody sees coming. The pawn that becomes a queen. The waitress who becomes a warrior. The man who learns to love again. And sometimes saving one life saves them all. The restaurant lights blazed against the darkness. Inside, 2 families that should never have met were planning a future together. Outside, the city continued its rhythm. Indifferent. Eternal. But in one small corner of Boston, in one renovated restaurant, in one moment of peace between storms, everything had changed. Elle Hayes had saved a life, and in doing so, found her own. That was worth every risk, every fear, every moment of terror. It was worth everything. The end was just another beginning. And the game, as always, continued.